Has it really been 300 episodes? Indeed it has. What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you the 300th episode of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss. As we have a big-time guest here, we're going to be chopping it up with some volleyball action. I know you all saw on Instagram, and I know you all saw on X. It's going to be a blast when it comes to me and my guests. Also, how about Mira Costa continuing their dominance? The Mustangs are just too good. They have just shredded through the entire CIS state playoffs. Also, we got the AVP to discuss as there was the Palm Beach Open and the first week of the AVP League. Who came out on top and who's leading in terms of the leaderboard? Also, I'll be talking about the origin story of Set Point, and I'll be having a Q&A volleyball related for the episode as well. So hand me a volleyball. Set connect. So I'm about to get some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you the 300th episode of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 300 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and X. Please do follow iSports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate that. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers, and with your help, we can definitely make it happen. Also, check out our website, iSportsRadio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, our merchandise shop, where you can cop t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and so much more. Also, check out our Hall of Fame, where yours truly is inductee number 10, and also check out our blog as well. For the last 11 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports stations around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed, for all that is sports. A huge shout out to our sponsors, Plant Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. Get your jerky at plantjerky.net. Also, we have partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes mental health as well. And also check out Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. They are an amazing asset to have when it comes to parties, weddings, and so much more. Go to Seal the Deal Wax Seals. Follow them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps, and definitely check them out on their website. So with all that being said, that is pretty much that. We thank all of them for being the official sponsors of iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. And without any further delay, let's get on into the action. So with me, I have a guest here. He is the head coach of UCLA's men's volleyball team, where he took those gutty little Bruins to the national championship this past season. He also is a former head coach of Loyola of Chicago in men's volleyball. He's just an all-around amazing guy. He's a former assistant coach for UCLA as well, having done that since 2015 all the way to 2022. And he's just an overall amazing guy. Ladies and gentlemen, well, introducing the one, the only, Mr. John Hawks. How you doing, John?
Teran, awesome to be here, man. Thank you for that great introduction. And congrats to you for 300 episodes. That's quite the achievement.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate you. Thank you for being on here. So without any further delay, let's get on into the volleyball action. But also a couple things. For those that are wondering, I am going to be doing a volleyball-related Q&A at the end of the show. So drop your volleyball related comments in the into the chat room or onto my post and whatnot. And also, and make sure they're appropriate as well. And second of all, in case the feds are watching, these are the thoughts and opinions of myself, Teran Rodriguez, and of John Hawks, and not the thoughts and opinions of anyone else. But with all that being said, John, the floor is yours. Tell everyone who you are, what you do, and basically how you got into volleyball.
Oh man. Um, yeah, John Hawks. I'm the head coach at UCLA. I am also currently the head coach of the U21 national team that is going to the World Championships in China this summer. And yeah, I mean, I'm just honored to be here. One and two, I think just anytime we get to talk about this great sport is always fun for me. So thank you for that. And how did I get involved in volleyball? I mean, I my peers put me in a private school when I was younger that went as Carden Hall in Newport Beach, and you know, luckily, just our PE coaches taught volleyball, and I learned on a tennis court with one bounce in between each ball or each touch, and really it was just pure fortune that I had just amazing teachers. I remember Mr. and Mrs. McCarthy and Matt Furbringer. He went there as well, so we just kind of played at a young age, and in fourth grade, I learned how to rotate and just fell in love with the sport and played multiple sports through growing up, but fell in love with this great sport of ours.
Awesome. And I actually just recently saw Matt Furbringer last Saturday at the CIF State Championship or SoCal Regional Championship match when Miracosta played Huntington Beach. But before you were the head coach of UCLA and you have all these amazing accolades, you also were an assistant coach for UCLA men's volleyball as well. Talk to me on how you found UCLA, or did UCLA find you?
Well, I think it originally started back in 2003. John Sprague got hired at UC Irvine from being an assistant at UCLA, and he asked me to be a coach with him on Irvine's team, and I took a leap of faith and jumped in and started doing it. I never thought I would coach college volleyball. I just felt it was just out of my league per se. So I think just kind of you know fell in love with it there with John. John became and is still a great friend of mine. And I guess in 2015 when I got back, I was in Ohio. I had met my wife. We had bought a house out there, and we were just kind of I didn't think I'd get back in college coaching. I felt like I was ready to move on, and John had a position open on his staff at UCLA and called me up and asked me if I wanted to join the staff. So joined Brad Keller and John Spraw on to that 2015 team, and then stayed there through 22 when I came the head coach at UCLA or at Loyola Chicago.
You mentioned Brad Keller, a real good friend of mine and a really great overall person. What's that friendship like when it comes to him, even though you kind of are on opposite sides with him being at USC and you being at UCLA?
Yeah, I think that's that natural thing. Everybody thinks that we probably don't like each other, but no, Brad was in my wedding, and I'd like to think that if he ever tied the knot and got married, I'd probably be in it. But yeah, I listen. Brad's a great friend, and I respect him a lot. I think he's just a fantastic coach. He's doing a great job with that Trojan program, and just so proud of him.
Excellent. So now let's jump on into you being the head coach at Loyola Chicago. So what was it kind of like going to the Windy City, and what did you like about being the head coach at Loyola?
I mean the administration was great. Holly and Steve were fantastic to work for, and really the the going to Chicago. I love that city. I've always loved the city. I think it's one of the best cities in the United States, and to join a group of guys with Parker Van Buren and Fabakovic and Dean Meyer, a bunch of just really good dudes. I hate to mention just those three because they're all great guys, and then just they work hard and they're gritty and they're tough, and it's always a thank you after practice and yes, coach. And I mean, they're just so respectful. And, you know, sh- I think Shane Davis taking over is the perfect fit. And he obviously did some great things with those guys. But I really loved my time there, and I thought I'd stay there for 10 years. So, it's just hard to pass up this UCLA opportunity.
And while you were at Loyola Chicago, that was actually the first time you and I met face to face, where I asked you, "Are you the John Hawks?" And then a little later, you were like, "Teran, I like how you called me the John Hawks," which I thought
Yeah.
that was a very memorable game. It was when you all played Long Beach State, and that was a gnarly match right there.
That's funny. Yeah, that was a good match. We lost in five, and I felt like we had opportunities to win that one, but as Long Beach is, they're a tough opponent, and they're champions. So it's all respect to them. But yeah, it was good meeting you then.
Yeah. So moving on to pretty much the present day, you found your way as the head coach of UCLA's men's volleyball team after John Sprague basically stepped down to be the CEO of USA Volleyball. So talk to me about the kind of the process of the wait and see on if you got the job process. And was it a little nerve wracking for you waiting and wondering if you were going to get the job?
Yeah, of course. Just the process at any university takes time, and the big stumbling block, or really not stumbling block, but just the hesitation and really announcing sooner, was that because I was living in, or I lived in two different states recently. They had to do background check for both states, and then in federal as well. So just waiting for that to clear. And I think that was kind of the time I'm like, God, can we just get the information and get this out? But I knew fairly quickly that I was going to get the job, but it was obviously I had to interview and I had to go through that process. But it was, yeah, I mean, you never know like what they want, exactly what they are. But I felt like just I'm going to be who I am, um, and obviously getting the job has just been a dream. So yeah, that process was nerve wracking, and I'm glad that it's over, and I'm glad to be here. And the first year under our belt is the first year is always tough, and coming in midway through the year was always a challenge. So yeah, just I'm disappointed in how it ended, but certainly happy to get the year under my belt, and just understanding what I really need to do with that program, and yeah, all that was definitely nerve wracking.
So starting off the season, it kind of got off to a little bit of a rocky start as unfortunately the Palisade fires just kind of did not do you any favors. And your first match actually was in the gold mine at Long Beach State. So what was kind of going through the players' heads and your head and everything else regarding the whole situation?
Yeah, that was a tough time just on everybody, and I think what we're trying to do is just be there for the guys that lost their homes, and we're going through this tragedy. And Miles Partain was a part of it, and you touched on the Palm Beach tournament that just happened, and Miles played great. And I was texting with him after the match, and just so proud of him and where he's gone. But to have three boys on the team, lose homes, and then yeah, we started off, with a loss to Ohio State, but that match at Long Beach was just such a really cool thing for the community. Long Beach State opened their doors to us, knowing that we needed a place to play. And as much as we're competitors, volleyball is one community, and I think it was really neat that they stepped up in a moment like that for us. And I know Irvine did that for Pepperdine, and we had tons of opportunities to go play other places, but Long Beach was the first one to just kind of open their doors and say, "Hey, you guys, you got the gym, and do what you need to do." So, yeah, my first head coaching win at UCLA was in Long Beach State's gym. So, thank you for that.
There was a lot of magic that happened in the gold mine. And fun fact, Alan Knight never got a chance to play at the pyramid. He had to play all his matches in the gold mine. So he made some memories there as well. But your first home match was against UC San Diego. How did it feel to finally play at Pauley Pavilion in what I imagine was probably a gnarly and amazing crowd?
Yeah, I don't remember specifics about that match, but I do remember the atmosphere being great and having Brad on the other side of the net was cool. I've got a lot of respect for Brad and what he's doing with that program, and just being in front of our crowd and our supporters and defending, two championships is was super cool and a moment that I won't forget. But yeah, I don't remember exactly specifics of the match. I do know that we got out of there with a win, and super thankful for that.
Now, after that little home match, and then you played CSUN, and then you had the Big Ten Challenge. You had not one but two series against the number one and number two teams. You played Long Beach State, and then afterward you played UC Irvine. Was that kind of like designed to be on your schedule, or was that kind of just we needed to fill those holes with said opponents?
No, no, no. Yeah, I mean, Nick Vogel does our scheduling, and I did it when I was there, and I know how big of a job that is. And um, yeah, you want to play the best teams, and playing Long Beach twice was great. Playing Irvine twice was by design, and we're doing it again next year, and hopefully for a long time to come. We'll keep playing them. It's they're so well coached and great programs with great tradition and a great conference, and we just know that every time we play those guys, we're going to get tested in ways that are going to kind of lead to something bigger for us in the next week and beyond.
Yeah, and hopefully I will be around for those matches. I did see them on the live stream, but you actually have to go to the matches in person because it's one thing to see on a live stream, but it's another thing to just go in person and see the roar of the crowd, the bouncing of the balls, the amazing hustle plays and whatnot. So that's kind of my PSA to all volleyball fans if you're ever in the area.
That's right.
So, looking at MPSF play, you all started pretty good. You took care of Stanford nicely, very good team. Then you took care of Vanguard, and you also took care of Pepperdine. But GCU, this one was kind of an interesting series in Phoenix, Arizona. So, talk to me about the GCU series and how you were able to squeak out a win in that second match.
I think it was just a weird weekend to begin with. Both we had guys actually really sick that weekend, but the yeah, I think there were a lot of dynamics at play. Zach Rama going home to play in front of his crowd. You had Andrew Rowan, whose dad built a house out there in Scottsdale, so we went and did a little pre-match kind of dinner over at their house. And Cam Thorne coming back to GCU for the first time. So there are a lot of emotions that were a part of that. And then you had guys sick that were out there trying to battle through and got through the match. Now, um, yeah, we did not play Bruin volleyball in that first match, and you know, credit to GCU, they played really tough. They were gritty. They dug balls. They challenged us. Um, and again, it seemed like so long ago that match happened. I'm not sure about what the stats look like or anything like that, but we quickly went back to the hotel. We watched the video. We moved on. We woke up in the morning and started fresh. And again, with guys just as sick as they were, they gutted it out. And Rowan was one of them. Cooper Robinson was the other. And those two guys are horses for us. So yeah, just a strange weekend and that stuff happens. I mean, you see teams, it's tough to go undefeated, and that's never your goal. Your goal is to just keep improving and keep learning about yourself and getting to that final match on that last day, and we accomplished that and fell a little short, but the yeah, just that GCU was a tough weekend, and think we learned a lot about who we are and how we want to train and what our guys want to do. And I think our internal leadership on the team really stepped up and started to lead internally within just a very short time after that match, and really said, hey, this is not what we're going to be about.
So yeah, after that loss to GCU, you pretty much ran the table and eventually locked up the regular season title of the MPSF regular season title and the number one seed. Unfortunately, you did suffer a tough loss to Pepperdine, but you did find out that you made the tournament. What was kind of the vibe after that loss to Pepperdine? Because that match was all colors of the rainbow and it had everything in it.
Yeah, that was a strange match. I mean, we hit, and it's funny. I do, because this is more recently. I do remember the stats. We outblocked them 12-6. We out hit them 366 to 230. Um, we had 15 aces to 28 errors. So I mean, less than a 2-1. They had four aces on 16 errors, so a 4-1 ratio. Everything was in our favor statistically. Now you look at the play of those guys. I mean, uh, their outside played really well, and I'm talking about not Barnett, but Haver played really well. Barnett played great too. I felt like we just made really silly mistakes, overpasses on free balls, um, just net violations on stuff blocks, just uncharacteristic errors, especially at that time of year. And I think people can talk about the buy and the challenge that that poses. That's not an excuse. We just did not play a great brand of volleyball there, and Pepperdine in their home gym. It's a challenging place to play. So the yeah, just that's how it is. I mean, sometimes you win those, sometimes you lose them. We lost that 1-5, and Pepperdine played great volleyball down the stretch. So yeah, all credit to them.
And we all pretty much saw that Pepperdine wound up winning that tournament, as you mentioned, and they also wound up winning an NCAA tournament match against Loyola, the first one in the Jonathan Winder era, and they pushed Long Beach State again. So going into the NCAA tournament, you all took down Belmont Abbey, but they were scrappy as heck. I saw the stream of that match. They were not going to go down that easily. So talk to me about Belmont Abbey and you all being the first match of the NCAA tournament yet again.
Well, it was fun. I mean, being there, and I thought Ohio State did just a fantastic job of hosting that tournament. And we went in there with full respect on Belmont Abbey. We'd watched film, we'd studied them pretty good, and felt like we had a good game plan going in against them. And you expect like those jitters and whatnot when you get into that match, but our guys have been there before. They understand the situation. They're professional about it. They prepared, and they prepared like it was any other opponent. And quite frankly, Belmont was tough, and they were up on us in the third set, and our guys just stayed composed and they stayed together, and we rallied and got through that win. And it was nothing about us looking forward past that match at all. We stayed present. We were where our feet were, and we just kind of we went out there and battled and just said, okay, we know there's no guarantee for tomorrow, and let's go get this one done as quick as we can so that we can be rested up if that semi was to happen.
UCLA has not lost a first round matchup since 1972, according to the broadcast of that match. I was like, wow. So, anyway, looking at the Final Four matchup against Hawaii, it was basically 50-50, but I basically had this inkling that UCLA, with that experience on their team, that's been to the Final Four, that's been to the national championship, that's been to the tournament overall, I had a feeling they were going to kind of grind and battle this one out. So, what was kind of going through your head when taking on a improved Hawaii team who was young but very talented?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. I mean they're a darn good team, and Charlie Milan and Capono do such a good job with that group. They're athletic. They're running a faster offense than they were last year. I thought Shred just did a great job improving this year. Uh, that was a match that we were 100% dialed in on, and you saw us right off the bat come out of the gates with Cooper Robinson just dialing up great serves down the line, and we put them on their heels really quick, and I give our guys a ton of credit for just being super dialed in. They knew the game plan. They knew exactly what they were supposed to do. They executed it to a T. They played super well together, and and really just stayed really present with like a 1 point volleyball mentality and didn't think too big. And um, yeah, we got done with that semifinal match, and we were just it was like, okay, next match, here we go. And it was like we celebrated it, but the celebration was quick, and we turned our attention to Long Beach.
Oh yeah, that's kind of like the whole mentality, the whole job's not finished mentality, because you won that big time match, but then you had another big time match on the other side waiting in the wings. Now we kind of have to rip off the band-aid when it comes to this, and I'm so sorry that I have to kind of mention this. Long Beach State did beat you on the national championship, but it was not without a lack of effort. You all really battled well against Long Beach, especially in set 2 and 3. After the match, what was kind of like the silver lining of that whole loss, even though Long Beach just kind of had their way?
Yeah, I mean, Long Beach played a great match. They were sharp, um and they kind of, I mean, you'd like to make all kinds of excuses. You can't. I mean, they made us have to make plays, and they blocked well, they schemed well against it, they served tough, they did everything and made it really challenging for us. So um the silver lining, I mean, I don't think there is one. You go there to win the title, and we were trying to do something that hadn't been done in a long time. So the the message, we just thank the seniors. We have to ask them to have a little message to the guys that they want. There were some tears, there were just some good hugs and some frustration. I think that we just didn't play our best volleyball in that last match, and felt like we let set two slip away. You're up 18-13 in the second set, and um I had intentionally saved my two timeouts for Nikolov going back to serve. And you think about this stuff as a coach, you're kind of going through the flow of the match, and okay, when what might I need these things? And Nikolov is just the most impactful player that I've coached against in all my years of coaching college. So um, he poses so many challenges for the blockers, the team that he's facing, and quite frankly, I mean, he's uh, just an incredible player, and I'm glad he's gone. So, um, yeah, I think the disappointment was that we let that set two slip away, and if we'd gone, 1-1 into the third set, it could be a different play. So, um, I think that's what we all kind of are regretting a little bit, that we just didn't close that one out. And Isaiah Pruitt, I think, went back to serve before that Nikolov run, and Isaiah on a float serve scored a couple points, maybe even three against us, and had to call a timeout during that run, which only left me one against Nikolov late. And I think they were down 18-20. I think he tied it up on two aces. So I've yet to rewatch the match. That one's going to sting to watch again. But, all these, you remember the losses a lot more than you remember the wins. That's for sure.
Isn't I feel that's like a John Wooden quote. I
I'm not sure. It could be. I mean, I think most coaches would probably tell you that.
Yeah, that or a Dan Glenn quote or Dan Glenn quote. Yeah. Speaking of Dan Glenn and Orange County boys volleyball, if I recall correctly, I feel you went to didn't you go to like Edison or something? Talk to me about kind of your youth in volleyball.
Yeah. Danny was the head coach of Edison when I was a freshman in high school. So the next year he actually left Edison and went to Newport where he had his long run. So um, yeah, I respect Dan a ton. I've known Dan and Tom Pestalacy and Mike D'Alessandro and the late Rocky Sorelli. I just respected all those guys growing up, and I think anybody at my age, in the mid 50s, just idolized all those guys, and Charlie Brand, of course. So it was a great time to grow up in Huntington Beach, and I lived in the same neighborhood as Tom Pestalacy, so I'd always see him walking around, and you know, they coached me in camps growing up, and yeah, I saw him the other night just at a high school game, so it was good to sit with him and kind of reminisce about the old days. It was cool.
Oh yeah, I did. I saw you and Pesto and Dan as well as along with Charlie Brand. So someone
Yeah.
else that I'm guessing you know is Travis Turner, who I think I'm gonna guess he found you at Balboa Bay. So talk to me about Travis Turner, who, as Kevin Birch would call him, the John Wooden of 3C2A men's volleyball.
Oh yeah, Travis is he and I go back to 1995. Really, I was coaching for Seaside down in San Diego, and they kept trying to get me to move up to Orange County and coach at Balboa, and I did in 1998. So, coached Balboa 98 through 2011, and then had some stints with the 14s for during COVID, and coached Brogan Glen then. So Brogan's a senior graduating and coming to UCLA next year, and yeah, just I mean Travis has meant so much to junior college volleyball, but also club volleyball in my life. And um, I talk to Travis quite often, and I just respect the heck out of him and what he's done and what he does for our sport.
I do too, and I love covering his matches at Orange Coast and whatnot, and I love covering the junior college volleyball scene. So something I would like to know regarding you, John, who have been some of your most favorite coaches that you've coached against, and who are some of your favorite teams that you've coached against?
Oh man. Um, I mean, I think some of my favorite ones. I mean, when we were with Loyola, beating Hawaii, and Hawaii was always that was a cool one. And you know, it's not so much Hawaii; it's the fans and the environment and the energy that comes with that, and it's just such a special place. And you hear people talk about it all the time, but yeah, that's a memorable one. I think growing up and playing in Poly for the first time when I was at Irvine. Um, that was a fun win. And then coaching against Marv Dunphy and his teams and those I could go on with. I mean, coaching against Alan Knipe was a treasured memory, and I think that I coached with him for a short time at Long Beach, and I think of him as a friend. I respect him a ton, and coaching against Ken Preston's teams at UC Santa Barbara were fantastic, and the McGowans and Sean Olmstead at BYU. I mean, there's just so many. I can't really like pinpoint one or two. I mean, coaching against Pav at Penn State and Pete Hansen and Kevin Burch at Ohio State. I mean, those are always fun. And, Donan Cruz has become a really good friend of mine. And we're going to play them next year. So I'm looking forward to that one. And that head to head Loyola match. I mean, I could go on with the incredible memories I have. And whether they're wins or losses, I think it's, as coaches, we're all pretty tight. And yeah, we get heated and we get competitive during the match, but I think afterward we can give each other a hug and say congrats and be supportive of each other.
Teran Rodriguez of Set Point on iSports Radio here with John Hawks on the 300th episode of Set Point. Amazing response. And as the old saying goes, volleyball is family. So, you having completed your first year as head coach at UCLA, what do you think you've learned the most, and how much do you think you've grown as a head coach?
Yeah, I learned a lot this year. It was you talked about family and the hard thing for me this year was I moved in October from Chicago and my wife and kids were still back in Chicago, and it was just not a great time to put the house up for sale. We're heading into the winter in Chicago, and we had some stuff we ended up doing to the house. We put a bunch of money into the house and kind of more or less put lipstick on it, and ended up selling it and closed escrow on April 7th. So it was not until April 11th that the girls actually moved out full time. I saw them for a week over Thanksgiving, a week over Christmas. They went out to Ohio State when we played there. And yeah, it was just a really tough time. So what I learned is I learned that I need my family. I need that support system. I learned that how I led this group, coming into the midway through the fall, I think there were some things that I just I wasn't myself, and I think there's just a lot of factors to that, and it's um, yeah, I think just for me, I learned really that I need to rely on people. I need a lot of support, and I leaned on my staff a lot, and they stepped up and they helped me through it. And I wasn't the leader that I know I am, and it was really just a big challenge for me. And it was you wouldn't think so. I'd recruited a lot of these. I recruited most of those guys, and I just felt like I wasn't who I normally am, and I think going into next year, I've done a lot of soul searching. I've kind of reflected a little bit and learning that we're all human and we all go through our ups and downs and challenges, but not having my family there and dealing with the fires and dealing with just the enormity of taking over for John Spraw and Al Skates and being the third coach and trying to win three titles in a row and then not having the Miles things fall our way. Um, yeah, there's just a lot of challenges that I just kept saying to myself, I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, give me one more thing to deal with, because it's gonna make me stronger in the long run. And I started to feel more like myself towards the end of the year. And it was really a turning point for me was when we lost those two to Long Beach State early in the year, and I just kind of opened up to the guys and was vulnerable. And I think that my job is to be a mentor and lead for these young men and be an example and uh, be a great father and a great husband and and I felt like I tried to do that to the best of my ability. I coach with my heart and I tell the guys I love them a lot, and I do, and I think that that's part of my coaching style is I want to be transformational, and I don't want to be a transactional coach. And I've had to make some tough decisions that don't allow me to sleep well at night, and that's a tough thing you kind of sign on for as a head coach. You bear that burden, and it feels lonely a lot of times. But again, I'm just so blessed to be a part of an amazing program, and um, yeah, I think where we go from here is going to be pretty fun to watch.
Beautiful answer. Absolutely well spoken and beautifully said. So, just a few more things and then I'll let you go for the day. So, you actually spoke about this topic at the NCAA tournament, and I hate to have to ask you this, but the GCU men's volleyball situation was just such a sad thing, unfortunately. So, talk to me about where you were and what your reaction was when you first found out about this news.
Oh gosh. Matt Worley and Brian Delamico, John Gurton are all very good friends of mine, and I, I don't know where I was. Oh, I know we were in practice, and Cam Thorne walked over to me. He wasn't practicing that day, and he handed me his phone, and I go, "What am I looking at here?" Because I mean, one, I can't see, but I I couldn't read it that fast. And he goes, he is GCU is done. And I go, hold on, what? And then we brought the guys in. We talked about what that means, and just said, hey, there's no guarantee, guys. Like we just got to keep putting our best foot forward and keep driving the sport. And it was sad because Cam has a bunch of really good friends, and then Zach Rama's from Arizona, where he grew up and developed his skills, and he had GCU program to look up to. And I think that when a program like that disappears, it's just sad for volleyball. It's infuriating because we don't know what the real reason was. I mean, it can't be because they're trying to cut $300,000. Are you kidding me? That's a drop in the bucket for a school like that. And to do it to their most successful program in the department is it's sad. It's a bummer. It's you know it's confusing because then you also have a lot of these kids that now don't have a place to go play, and it's cool to see them starting to find homes now. But the uncertainty was shocking, and that was yeah, just a cool moment, I think, for all those teams at the tournament to kind of band together. And I know Cam led the charge on all that with one of our managers on our team, Holly, and just super proud of them for stepping up in that moment and making those shirts. And yeah, it's just a bummer. And we hope it's not going to happen to another program, but unfortunately, we'll probably have to deal with it again. And yeah, we just got to keep praying.
Indeed, and very well said regarding GCU men's volleyball and whatnot. So it was a very tough situation. Now, one last thing, and then I'll let you go. So obviously, I'm doing my best to try to grow the game of NCAA men's volleyball, and then we got others like Rob Sparrow, Joe McCurdy, who had some really great volley takes and whatnot. What are you hoping for in terms of the growth of NCAA men's volleyball next year and beyond?
Well, I think the impact of some of these foreign kids, and I know a lot of people are we got to limit the amount of foreigners. I think it's just making our game better. The impact that Nikolov, as much as everyone is happy to see him go, he was great for our sport, and he brought a lot of visibility to our sport. So I think it'd be short-sighted on our part or my part to not want that stuff. And I think that seeing every team really go out there and invest in their program and do their best job recruiting so that we can have these 5 set battles and get in a bigger tournament. I think that would be something I think we all want, is just to see a better tournament where um, USC and Irvine are represented in the tournament. And um, you know, I think people can argue that Irvine should have been in, and um, I don't think that's an argument. They shouldn't have been in over us, but it was those teams need to be playing in the tournament. And Ohio State hosting and not being able to be in the tournament, they were close. Ball State was a good team. I think there are a lot of really good teams that were left out that, with the 16-team tournament, could be an incredible tournament to watch for the fans.
Yeah, and McKendree was also one of those other really good teams as well. Can't forget
Absolutely.
about them. CSUN was pretty impressive as well. They boomed up to the top 10 and so on and so forth. But um, one more thing, and then I'll let you go. You are at a volleyball club tournament, which I think is pretty awesome. Volleyball just never seems to end for you. Like, what do you think you've learned with your daughters playing volleyball? And then I saw on Instagram that John Hawks' kids were playing volleyball, LeBron James's kids were playing volleyball, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it was funny. So John Sproul was in here with his daughters, and his kids are the same age as mine. And then, I mean, I could say Juan Figueroa and Jared Jensen and Dane Jensen, a bunch of kids that I coached throughout the years. And Jarrett played at Irvine for us, and he's 44 years old, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've been doing this a long time, and it's so fun to walk around this gym and see, friendly face. I just see Chris McGee and Matt Boyce and, you know, Tom Stillwell and yeah, just it's an awesome, awesome sport. And what I've learned through my daughters, I got to be patient. I watch and John, this is talking about Spraw. He says he had somebody stat the tournament, and at the 10 and unders, 76% of the plays end on one contact, whether that's a missed serve, an ace serve, or a shanked pass or something. So it's watching sometimes some pretty bad volleyball, but we all remember where we started and we were at that age and we were struggling too. And it's fun. So I watch my daughter. She's an amazing teammate. Uh, she loves the cheers. She loves being out there. She loves supporting her girls and I pepper with my 8-year old. I must have peppered for 4 hours yesterday in the gym. So my pepper game is on point right now.
Amazing stuff. John, I could not have asked to have a better guest on here. You were fantastic. Do you have any other shout outs or thank yous you want to give out to before I send you on your way?
Well, I mean, the biggest shout I have is to my wife, who is, I think, feels like a single parent a lot of times, and this is a time where this summer I'm going to be gone for 6 weeks with the U21 national team. But my shout outs to my wife, who's just the all star and stud, and keeps our girls moving from class to practice and you name it. So I'm just blessed to have her in my life, and could not do this without her.
Excellent. Well, thank you, John, for being a guest on the 300th episode of Set Point. It truly means a lot to have you on the show, and hopefully, I can have you back on future shows. And hopefully, I'll be seeing you sooner rather than later when it comes to NCAA men's volleyball.
Appreciate you, man, and congrats again on 300. That's quite the achievement. Nice
All right.
work.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you.
All right, bud.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
That was John Hawks, head coach of UCLA men's volleyball. You can follow him on social media on X or Instagram at Johnny the Hawks. And also follow UCLA men's volleyball on X and Instagram at UCLA MVB. So, with that being said, let's continue on. And also, if you all don't know, that I'm doing a volleyball related Q&A. So don't think I'm going to be doing a rando Q&A when it comes to everything else. But yeah, I'm doing a Q&A when it comes to volleyball related things. Drop your questions down below and make sure they're appropriate questions. Make sure they're not like inappropriate questions and whatnot. I'm not going to talk about something and whatnot. So, but yeah, definitely do drop your volleyball related questions and whatnot. And trying to fix this thing here. Nope, that ain't it. Nope. This might have to do. Whatever. This'll do. Okay, but yeah, definitely drop your volleyball related questions. And you know what? Let's change it to UCLA Blue in honor of John Spraw, not John Spraw, John Hawks. Too many Johns in my life. But anyway, thank you to John Hawks for being a guest. So let's move it along and definitely drop your volleyball related questions down below in the group chat or comment section. So Larry B actually popped into the chat room and he said, if I could get to his comments, he said, welcome to John Hawks. Thank you to Larry B for popping into the chat room. And he also did wish us all a happy 300th episode. That was awesome sauce. Thank you, Larry. Without you, Set Point wouldn't have been. And then Mike Pat pops to the chat room. He says, good evening, Teran. Thank you to Mike Pat for popping into the chat room. And we got some other Twitch users. And Ricky Keeler pops in the chat room. He says, congratulations on your 300th episode, Teran. You have definitely spiked the competition with your hard work. Here's to many more episodes. Aw, thank you, Ricky. Ricky, you're going to make me cry in terms of like tears of laughter because of your little pun and whatnot. But that really means a lot. And Brian Francione says, congrats on 300 episodes, Teran. Well, thank you, Brian. That really does mean a lot. And then Ralph Calise also popped into the chat room as well. I want to get through all the comments. If I could get to them. Here it is. Ralph Calise says, Teran, congrats, 300 episodes. Amazing accomplishment for an amazing podcaster, especially with volleyball. Let's go. Well, thank you, Ralph. That means a lot. And thank you for always being there as well for me. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to my IE Sports Radio family for always being there. More on that a little later, but let's talk a little high school boys volleyball. So the CIF Southern Section Division or SoCal Regional Division 1 final will be Mira Costa, Archbishop Mitty. It's 1 seed versus 1 seed. Archbishop Mitty made it out of the NorCal region as they only dropped 1 set all postseason. And they actually did so even with an interim coach, as it's amazing to see how they've progressed. This is their first region. They've actually won their first regional championship since 2013. And this year is actually going to be the first time we're going to be crowning state champions. It's not going to be regional champions and then poof, the season's over. It's actually going to be an actual CIF state champion, which I think is pretty cool. But Archbishop Mitty is a real feel-good story, as Greg Gallegos is their interim coach. And if he continues this, he could be seeing the interim tag being taken off, as he could be the head coach for Archbishop Mitty. And Archbishop Mitty always has themselves an amazing team practically every year, which I think is pretty darn awesome if you ask me. So all in all, I think it's well-deserved on Gallegos' behalf. I think he's a fantastic coach. And sooner rather than later, we'll be seeing the interim tag taken off. And sometimes it just happens that you have to have an interim coach. A lot of teams have kind of gone through it in terms of having interim coaches, like Newport Harbor did so this season. Moore Park College had an interim coach, which I think he could be getting the interim tag off of, but I digress. Anyway, so Archbishop Mitty will be facing Mira Costa. We all know that what Archbishop Mitty did was impressive. They wound up sweeping Oak Ridge in the first round, then Clovis in the regional semifinals, and then the regional final, they took down Clovis East, which was pretty darn impressive as well. That's a pretty darn good team from Northern California. On the SoCal regional side, Mira Costa pretty much just blasted through every round. They swept Beckman, which they got to play some of their reserves. They actually didn't have Thatcher Fallbush, as Thatcher had a knee injury following the Southern Section Championship against Huntington Beach, so that left him out, and that we got to see Cooper Keene time, which Cooper Keene, you're about to see that he had himself a big week. And then Mira Costa took down Newport Harbor in straight sets. Now, this was kind of a surprise just because I thought Newport Harbor would have put up a better fight, because Newport Harbor actually upset Torrey Pines on the road in straight sets. But I use the term upset very loosely just because Torrey Pines does kind of already know Newport's strategy and vice versa. And Newport does have that experience of beating Torrey Pines. This year, they beat him in the Redondo Power Classic final in the regular season. So Newport kind of did have that experience over Torrey Pines, but I was a little shocked to see Newport Harbor losing in straight sets to Mira Costa. They got thumped. They didn't even crack 20 points. And then elsewhere on the SoCal region, we had Corona Del Mar taking down Carlsbad in 4 sets. Now, in case you didn't miss last week's show, I was not happy with how Corona Del Mar got the 6 seed behind Newport Harbor getting the 5 seed. I thought that was a very, very short end of the stick type of deal and whatnot. So, but honestly, Corona Del Mar made the best of that opportunity. They took down Carlsbad, who had Roman Payne, who's going to Hawaii in terms of men's volleyball. So winning on the road against Carlsbad is a huge deal, because Carlsbad had not lost a best 3 out of 5 match this season, and they had not lost on the road or at home. So I think that was big. And then I got to attend a couple of Huntington Beach's matches at home. I PA'd announced both those matches. The Huntington Beach took down Redondo Union, and then Huntington Beach took down Corona Del Mar in 4 sets. Now, Corona Del Mar did not have Ben Brown, as Ben Brown actually got hurt in the Carlsbad match, which is very tough for the Sea Kings. But at the same time, they were able to be super resilient. They've got a very good junior core. And Brogan Glenn, John Hawks mentioned Brogan Glenn. He actually did a great job filling in at the outside hitter position. Glenn is primarily a libero, but he does play a mean outside hitter. He even got a few big-time blocks against Logan Hutnick and Ben Arguello of Huntington Beach. But Huntington Beach was able to pull out the win. Ben Arguello and Colin Choi both stepped up when Logan Hutnick wasn't really having his best game. So there's that right there. And then the regional final, Miracosta swept Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach did jump out to a 9-point lead. I was thinking that this might be Huntington Beach's breakthrough. But Miracosta was able to rally back and win the first set in overtime. And they eventually wound up winning the second set after they were down to a couple times. And then in the third set, Miracosta wound up winning in fairly easily by 9 points. So overall, Miracosta, they are just dominant at home. They went undefeated at home. But the crazy thing about Miracosta is they only dropped one set all year at home. One set all year. And that was in a tournament where Miracosta and Redondo Union were hosting the Redondo Miracosta preseason tournament, which I thought was pretty darn cool, if you ask me. And the team that they dropped the set to was Buchanan, but that was like way back in February. But Miracosta not only having lost one set overall, and they didn't even lose a set in a best 3 out of 5 match. Try as every team did, Miracosta was not losing any sort of set. So I thought that was pretty darn cool as well. But now Miracosta and Archbishop Mitty will be playing at Fresno City College, which I think is pretty nice as well. And then in Division II, Mater Dei and Buchanan will be facing one another. Speaking of Buchanan, Mater Dei was the first team out in terms of the CIF Southern Section Division I playoffs. They got dropped to Division II, wound up winning CIF in Division II, and then they wound up winning the SoCal Regional Championship. They took down St. Augustine, Classical Academy, and Francis Parker, where Buchanan swept West Park, Los Gatos, and Del Oro, took down Del Oro in 4 sets. So it's 1 seed versus 1 seed, just like in Division 1. And then in Division 3, and by the way, some of Mater Dei's notable players are Jeremiah Potassi and Dylan Gallagher, who is committed to Pepperdine, which I think is pretty cool. And then Division 3, in terms of the CIF State Championship, you've got Sage Hill and International. Yes, that's quite the name for a team right there. Anyway, so Sage Hill, in case you don't know, that is the alma mater of some of the late Kobe Bryant's daughters, like Natalia and whatnot. I think it's just Natalia and whatnot. Anyway, so Sage Hill, they actually have a stud player on their team, Jackson Christ. This dude is legit, and he's going to Long Beach State. So if you're ever at this state championship match and you see Sage Hill, this guy is for real. Sage Hill, Jackson Christ of Sage Hill is the real deal. And then International, they were able to sweep Christian Brothers, and then they took down Monta Vista in 4 sets, and then they took down Branham in 4 sets. Branham actually upset the number 1 overall seed, Lay, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, Sage Hill International is the Division 3 final. And then the Division 4 final is Mater Dei Catholic of Chula Vista playing the likes of, if I could just pull it up on my computer right here and now, they will be playing Livingston. Not Sean Livingston, Livingston. Anyway, but Mater Dei Catholic, or Mater Dei of Chula Vista, they were the number 1 overall seed of their region, swept California Academy, then they swept Brea Olinda, which apparently San Gabriel Academy, the winner of the Southern Section Division that Brea Olinda was in, they declined their spot in the state playoffs, so Brea Olinda was able to take that opportunity and run with it. And then Mater Dei took down Wildwood, which I thought was kind of the Cinderella of the entire CIF playoffs. Wildwood upset the number 2 seed East Valley in straight sets. They took down Fallbrook in 5 sets in the regional semifinals, but Wildwood fell short to Mater Dei Catholic. So that's pretty much that for all of your CIF state championship matches and your recap of the SoCal Regional and NorCal Regional playoffs. So this weekend is the CIF State playoff, or CIF State Championship. So on Friday is going to be Mater Dei versus Buchanan, and then which is in Division 2, and then Division 1, 4, and 3 will be on Saturday at Fresno City College. So unfortunately, your boy won't be in attendance just because no way to get to Northern California without spending a pretty penny and whatnot. But I digress. All right, but that is that for some high school boys volleyball. So some sad news that I have to make note of. Stephen F. Austin dropped its beach volleyball program. Here we go again with this whole dropping of the beach volleyball programs and whatnot. And this just continues to get very frustrating and very annoying and just very irritating, if you ask me. I really don't like seeing all these programs just dropping all their beach volleyball programs, their men's volleyball programs. I'm just sick and tired of it. I'm fed up with it. I'm pert near ready to spit nails when it comes to this. But on Stephen F. Austin not only dropped the beach volleyball program, but they also dropped their golf program and their bowling program as well due to financial issues. Now, I mean, I hate to say this, but the beach volleyball team at Stephen F. Austin wasn't really the most successful one. I'm not going to mince words. It wasn't really on the level of like Texas or TCU or any other team from like Texas and whatnot. But it still sucks to see other programs cut their program. I mean, Utah had their program cut the day after GCU's men's program had their program cut. But yeah, Utah and Stephen F. Austin beach volleyball are both cut, which really sucks. And at least Stephen F. Austin had a little bit more of an excuse. I still think it's disappointing that they're still having to cut programs, and it sucks for all those athletes. So I feel for the athletes, and hopefully we will be able to get this whole thing straightened and ironed out. So there you have it right there. That's kind of my take on it. And I'll say this, at least Stephen F. Austin didn't really make the whole excuse of, oh, there's not a whole lot of beach programs in such and such conference, or there's not a lot of teams in NCAA beach volleyball or NCAA, like the whole GCU bull crap that is. So all in all, it was very tough and very frustrating. But I also feel bad for the golf and bowling programs as well and their athletes. So sadly, Stephen F. Austin had to make budget cuts, and financial issues were just a thing. So it sucks, but sometimes that's just how life is. All right, so now moving on, let's recap some AVP League action. So week 1 of the AVP League is in the books, and honestly, it was a pretty fun week, if you ask me. Apparently, the AVP League being on the CW might have been the worst thing ever, which I'm sorry. I hope the AVP is able to get like a better TV sponsor. I mean, at this point, just have it on like on your YouTube channel. Just have it on your YouTube channel. Just please. Oh, and one just as a quick friendly reminder, I'm doing a volleyball Q&A at the end of this show. So toward the end of the show. So drop your volleyball questions and make sure they're appropriate, because the feds are watching, and I don't want us to get in trouble or sued or whatnot. So the AVP League. So yeah, just that quick little reminder right there. But in the AVP League, it was pretty fun. The first week of the season is now officially in the books. Every team went 2-2, which I thought was pretty darn cool, if you ask me. And what better way to kick off the league than to basically have a rematch of last year's championship, which was the San Diego Smash taking on the Dallas Dream, which I thought was pretty darn cool. So it was very fun, and I was very bravo to the AVP. And they also had $1 beers from 5:30 to 6:30 each night. So that was pretty good. They also had the whole thing televised on CBS Sports Network. That was good. Unfortunately, the CW was kind of a disaster, courtesy according to one source and whatnot. But overall, it was a pretty fun week. The Brooklyn Blaze played, the San Diego Smash played, the Dallas Dream played, and the Palm Beach Passion played, because they were the kind of the host team. So that was pretty nice as well. So all those teams that I just mentioned, they all went 2-2 this past weekend. Unfortunately, I am just not finding their the results on their website, which really sucks. All I know is that every team went 2-2, which was nice. Nice to have that balance, nice and balanced, just like everything. Everything should be. A little bit of a movie reference right there, kind of like this title for this whole thing. So yeah, but thankfully, uh, I was able to get some of the results right here in terms of like the AVP results, as every team went 2-2, and like I mentioned, it was a pretty fun event. So here are the results, because the AVP doesn't want to put them on their friggin' website. Gosh darn it, AVP. So yeah, Dallas Dream and Palm Beach Passion both actually got 7 points, just in case they're like tiebreakers, because 6 teams advanced to the playoffs, whereas 2 teams will get left out. Brooklyn Blaze also accumulated 6 points, and then the San Diego Smash accumulated 4 points with their 2-2 record. So the Palm Beach Passion on the men's side saw. Wait, well, yeah, this whole website is a little bit of a oddball, if you ask me. But the Palm Beach Passion and the Brooklyn Blaze on Friday, that consisted of Trevor Crabb and Phil Dalhauser, and then they took on Sean Cook and Brian Miller. The Passion wound up winning in straight sets. And then on the women's side, between the Blaze and the Passion, the Blaze wound up winning that one. And then the Dallas Dream and the San Diego Smash, the men wound up winning that one in straight sets. And then the women for Dallas. And then on the men's side, on the women's side, the women from San Diego wound up taking down Dallas in a 3-set barn burner. And then on the men's side, Dallas took down San Diego. And then on Saturday, we had the Passion taking on the Dallas Dream, where the Dream took down the Passion in straight sets on the men's side. And then on the women's side, the Passion took down the Dream in straight sets. And then in terms of the Brooklyn Blaze versus the San Diego Smash, you had a 3-set thriller between the Smash and the Blaze, where the Smash on the men's side took that one. And then on the women's side, you had the Blaze taking down the Smash in straight sets, so completing the whole 2-2 record. So in case you're wondering the format of this whole thing, it's best 2 out of 3, but the target score is to 15 points, not just in the third set, but in the first 2 sets as well, which I think is pretty cool if you ask me. You still must win by 2 points, and yeah, and 3 points are for a 2-set win, 2 points are for a 3-set win, 1 point for a 3-set loss, and then 0 points for a 2-set loss. So that's basically AVP League in a nutshell. So other than that, we also had the AVP's Palm Beach Open. So this, seeing as most of the superstars in the AVP were in the AVP League, they unfortunately could not make it to the AVP or the AVP's Palm Beach Open. But on the men's side, Theo Brunner and Ryan Wilcox wound up winning the whole Palm Beach Open, which I thought was pretty cool. This was on the men's side, by the way. And then finishing second was Evan Corey and Caleb Queckel, which was pretty nice. And then third place was Tim Brewster and Ryan Ierna. And then fourth place was Troy Field and Ford Harmon. So you had that right there. So that was on the men's side. On the women's side, that actually went to, can we get a drum roll, please? So finishing first was Kennedy Coakley and Ashley Pater, which that was pretty good. Those two, in case you're wondering who those two are, that's the USC pair. I think Kennedy Coakley is still at USC. I thought she transferred to Texas, but those two did play for USC this past spring, and they were on USC's championship team last year and whatnot. So they took down Maddie Mae Anderson and Brooke Bauer in the final, which I thought was pretty good because both of them are actually Florida State alums, so from different timelines. Savvy Simo and Abby Van Winkle finished third, and then as well as Aurora Davis and Katie Hogan. And I think I might have messed up on the entirety of. Okay, so second place was Rowdy Lennon and Logan Mister. So my apologies on that. Theo Brunner and Ryan Wilcox took down Rowdy Lennon and Logan Mister. Oh gosh, I'm sure the IE Sports Radio family is going to have a field day when it comes to these names: Rowdy Lennon and Logan Mister. And then tying for third is Evan Corey and Caleb Queckel, and then Ian Bicco and Will Rivera tied for third. So my apologies on that previously. Tim Brewster and Ryan Ierna tied for third, and then Troy Field and Ford Harmon tied for ninth as well. And then Tim Brewster and Ryan Ierna tied for ninth. They were the number 3 overall seed. So all in all, that's it for AVP. That's pretty much that for the AVP. It feels silly that I had to dig through a lot to try to find the AVP league scores, but the next AVP event will be not this week, but next week. So week 2 of the AVP league will be in San Diego at the Viejas Arena. So that's going to be pretty cool right there. That's pretty awesome sauce. And that's the home of San Diego State in terms of its women's volleyball team and men's basketball team and women's basketball team. So the teams that are participating in are the LA Launch and the Dallas Dream, and then the Austin Aces, and of course the San Diego Smash. So San Diego is going to be hosting, and then the next tournament is going to be the Virginia Beach Open. And thankfully they spelt Virginia right, as they actually did not previously. They did not spell it right last time. So this is a contender event. So that's the next tournament for the AVP. So you have that right there. And there you go. That's pretty much that for the AVP portion of the show. Again, it's good. There's nothing going to be happening this weekend. I think everyone deserves a little bit of a week off. So there you have it right there in terms of the AVP, and that's pretty much that for all of the important volleyball when it comes to it. So now we can get on into how set point come to be, and unfortunately no one has really put in any questions, but if you have any volleyball related questions, and please don't include dead or alive volleyball. I'm not going to answer dead or alive volleyball questions, but if you have any volleyball related questions, definitely do let me know. It would definitely mean a lot if you were to ask me some volleyball related questions, but let's discuss the origin of Set Point. So it's 300 episodes of Set Point. I never thought in my wildest imagination that Teran Rodriguez would be doing a volleyball show for 300 episodes and counting. It just really means a lot that I would eventually reach this milestone. It really just means a lot to me. I am just honored. So how Set Point came to be back in 2019, and we're almost getting to the 6-year anniversary of Larry B recruiting me. So about 6 years ago, I come out of a movie theater. I check a notification on X, used to be known as Twitter back in the good old days. But I checked a notification on Twitter, and I saw Larry B telling me, "Hello, we are looking for a baseball host for our baseball show. Would you be interested?" And then he and I talked, and he said, and we basically started up. And then he said, "We'd love to have you as a co-host." And eventually, I was brought onto the IE Sports Radio family. And that was back when we had a baseball show called Bases Loaded. Now we have the baseball show right now, the Bullpen Bulletin. So yeah, it was an interesting time. And then also, in addition to being the co-host of the former baseball show Bases Loaded, I was Larry B's co-host when it came to the Defining Moment, which is now going to have another new format. So I love talking sports with Larry, and he and I were co-hosts with one another. Eventually, he did mention he didn't want me to talk a little NCAA volleyball because we were going to preview it. And then I was just ripping through all the volleyball knowledge. This was keep in mind, this is back in 2019 when I was talking some NCAA women's volleyball. I knew Stanford was the reigning champion. I knew they had some big time players. But yeah, Larry was impressed. He was like, dude, I didn't know you had it in you when it came to talking that volleyball. And then eventually everything kind of fell through. He got busy when it came to the defining moment. And then unfortunately, I had a little bit of a falling out with Bases Loaded. So eventually I was left without doing a show, and I said, Larry, what the heck? It's like, you recruited me to do a show and a podcast. So where's my why am I not doing a show? And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to give you your own show. And he said, but at the time we were just doing sports shows. We already had a hockey show. We already had a football show. We had a all sports and pop culture kind of talk show. We had a motorsports show. We had a soccer show at the time, which we do now, Shin Pads and Shenanigans. So I was like, well, and then we had a basketball show back when it was hosted by Phil Jones and Phil Robinson. But I said, well, Larry, what show am I going to be hosting if every sport is basically taken? And then Larry suggested, well, since you know so much about volleyball, why not host a volleyball show? And Larry could not have picked a better show for me to do. Now, at first, I was basically the worst when it came to this. I basically did multiple shows a week sometimes. I was nervous. My equipment wasn't the greatest. All in all, it was tough at first. And it got tougher when I had to juggle around me being a student at Long Beach State, or Cal State University Long Beach. And I did have to miss one show. I did tell Larry I can't do set point 1 week. I think it was like March 1st of 2020. And I told him I can't do set point. I'm going to have to take a week off because I decided to blow off doing I think it was like a 500 word, or if not a 1,000 word report to the day of it was due. So I had to miss set point. But ever since then, I haven't missed set point. But there were some tough times, some tough hardships where I just was not feeling it. And I wasn't getting a whole lot of traction, a whole lot of fans. And it's like, there was a time where I just wanted to quit set point. I just wanted to say, I don't know if I could do this. It's like, it's so tough. I hate it. I'm not feeling joy. But I just felt the need to keep going. I just felt the need to just say, you know what? I'm going to continue to do set point, and eventually I'll try to make this work, and I'll try to make this the best darn volleyball show ever. And thankfully, I was able to continue it. Unfortunately, I had to deal with the pandemic, which really sucked, which meant no volleyball, no high school volleyball, no JUCO volleyball, no NCAA volleyball, not a lot of pro volleyball. I was like, well, what am I going to do? And thankfully, I took this idea from The Extra Mile. They were having guests on their shows, and you know what? I did the same thing. I had guests on my shows, whether it was like collegiate volleyball coaches, whether it was high school reporters, all that sort of thing. And I kept set point going through the pandemic, and I was happy to have not missed 1 week when it came to set point. There were some hardships. I mean, obviously working at a grocery store did not help matters. I one time had a co-host, but unfortunately his schedule just wasn't working out with mine and the show schedule. So it really sucked that I kind of lost my co-host, but he and I are still cool no matter what, and so on and so forth. And I've really enjoyed doing set point. I've really enjoyed having this show on IE Sports Radio. I know volleyball isn't everyone's first sport, but honestly, I've enjoyed kind of being an outlet for the volleyball community, whether it's NCAA men's volleyball, NCAA women's volleyball, NCAA beach volleyball, high school volleyball, junior college volleyball, so professional volleyball, whether it's on the beach or indoors. I've enjoyed doing set point a lot. I've been to a lot of big time volleyball events, like back when the NBA was happening. I went to the NCAA Men's Volleyball National Championship, or the whole national tournament altogether at Long Beach State. I went to the friendly matches between the U.S. women's national team and the Dutch women's national team before the Olympics last year, and I was a very good outlet for those that did not want to watch on, I think, Baller TV. Like, everyone was telling me, can you please stream the whole friendly match? It's like, no, I don't want to get in trouble. So, but I appreciated everyone basically being in my mentions and, showing me the love and whatnot. I totally, and I've met a lot of really good people, not just on the player side, but parents. Parents have told me, I love what you do. All my kids love what you do. You're a really good person. You really do grow the game of volleyball well. You're good for volleyball, et cetera, et cetera. So I just gotta thank the parents. And you parents are the reason why your kids are kind-hearted people, why they're not like growing up unhappy and whatnot, and they're actually getting to live their dream of playing volleyball. And I think it's really awesome sauce. And I've had to learn from some parents and some fans as well. So I really do appreciate every fan, whether it's on social media, whether it's in real life. I really do appreciate all of you for showing me love, showing me appreciation, for being for making me continue to do what I love to do. And I just really do appreciate it. And especially the players as well, and other volleyball content creators who I've really come to know in terms of fruition and whatnot, and who have helped me get my content out there. You know who you are. You're amazing. I really do appreciate everyone who I've met. And I also got to show love to the iSports Radio family. I mean, whether I've had to like tell them which teams have done great guns and whatnot, and so on and so forth. I really do appreciate the iSports Radio family showing me love whenever they can. I know back in the day, I kind of was a little unruly, and Larry B had to like put me in timeout. But honestly, I mean, he's kind of one of the reasons why I'm here today, and how I'm not just a pushy son of a gun. But overall, I just enjoy doing this whole thing, and I'm hoping to continue to keep this going as well. I mean, whether it's for this station, I mean, or whether I'm doing something else for some other company, or whether we're finally going to get that stinking NCAA men's volleyball show from the AVCA, I'm going to continue to do this to the best of my ability. I could not imagine doing this any other way. I mean, I struggled early on, like I mentioned, but at the same time, we all kind of go through some sort of point. Like, for example, like what John Hawk said, we all start at a little bit of a level where we're all kind of not at the top of our game, and now we are and now we're kind of at that professional level. And I feel it's amazing that I've grown so much as a podcaster and whatnot, and I've learned from my mistakes and so on and so forth. David Crooks pops into the chat room. He says, like and share. Yes, like and share the show, please. It definitely means a lot for not only the show, but for iSports Radio. But just to close things off, look, I enjoy doing this, and I've enjoyed all the guests I've had, whether it's John Hawks, John Speraw, Emily Eman, Daniel Gilman, and so on and so forth. I love all the guests that I have, and they're very insightful. Heck, I'll go as far as to say that they know more volleyball than me, just because I try to cover everything volleyball, where their knowledge is like right up here, where mine is kind of like right here. But overall, I would just love to continue to just grow the show and have like more people like expand on the show, because I just don't want to be the volleyball outlet for NCAA men's volleyball. Like, don't get me wrong, to all my followers on Instagram and X, knowing that I'm a big volleyball outlet for men's volleyball, but I want to be the volleyball outlet for everything volleyball, whether it's NCAA women's volleyball, NCAA beach volleyball, AVP, the VLA. That reminds me, the VLA has their playoffs this weekend in Cincinnati, Ohio. So something else to make note of. I promised my boy Rob St. Clair I would make note of the VLA. That's something I'm going to be recapping on next week's show. And if there's ever a live stream to that, definitely go check that out. The VLA is on the rise, so because it's the only thing we have in terms of professional men's volleyball. So check out the VLA, and definitely you won't be disappointed, because the playoffs are what truly matters. I only wish it wasn't in Cincinnati. I wish it was kind of in Southern California, but I digress. But to close off the show, I appreciate everyone's support when it comes to the show. Whether I've had my good days where I've just let down everybody, or whether I've had my bad days where I've let down everybody, or whether I've had my good days where everyone's just blowing up my notifications on Instagram or on X. I really do appreciate everyone's love and support for Set Point. I really, really do appreciate it. Whether you love me, whether you hate me, whether you're in between, I just really do appreciate everyone's support when it comes to Set Point. It just means a lot, and I love what I do. I may not be the most well-known person when it comes to the volleyball world. I may not do the cleanest of jobs. I may not be the flashy, sexy person in terms of like volleyball news and whatnot. But honestly, I enjoy doing this, and I could not enjoy doing this more. And I'm hoping to just continue to grow and rise to the top. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. And it looks like nobody asked me any questions. All right. Well, this was kind of last minute, and I didn't know I was going to get John Hawks. I mean, his little availability was kind of depending on his daughter's club volleyball matches, but I digress. But thank you to John Hawks for being a guest on today's show. And happy Memorial Day to everybody. I forgot to mention happy Memorial Day. Thank you to those who served. Thank you to those who put forth themselves in giving the ultimate sacrifice and whatnot. Thank you to all of the veterans. If you see a veteran, thank them. Tell them they're awesome. Tell them thank you for your service, and tell them that they're amazing. And we remember. So with that being said, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. For my guest, John Hawks, and everyone here at iSports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have an amazing week of volleyball. Have an amazing week overall. Enjoy the holiday weekend. To be responsible, be safe, be well. I will see you all next week for another episode of Set Point, and keep an eye out for all of the volleyball content that is to come. Have a great rest of the weekend, and remember, grow and love the game of volleyball. Peace!